I can't. I just fucking can't. The Sonic fandom, once again, is doing the same shit with Sonic Origins Plus. And I'm just, quite frankly, tired of it. I know he keeps saying that for the 6th time this week, Miss Foul. But this is some legitimately foul play. SEGA is essentially pulling what a lot of people hate with fighting games, where they basically make you wait for the complete edition or Game of the Year edition, except SEGA is doubling down on this bullshit to the point that buying an actual physical copy is completely redundant if you buy it used. Legit, the only time where buying it new was kind of a waste is with the original release of Arkham City, because you don't have to play the really stupid Catwoman missions. But we're not gonna get into that game. We're gonna get into the Sonic game, which is apparently a thing now, so thanks. I really needed that information. I'm just super ecstatic on that, but I don't care who's developing this shit anymore. SEGA is really trying to monopolize the fandom to such ludicrous amounts that it really is like Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer basically trying to milk the COD fan base just so they can play in the good maps. The sad thing is that this shit has been going on ever since Black Ops 1. Then they make you pay it again in Black Ops 3, and Black Ops 4, and possibly Cold War. I don't know, I don't care. Why are people enabling this bullshit with SEGA? Because it's made by fans for fans? Okay, sure. You get to play as Amy in all 4 games. Wow. Like, there hasn't been ROM hacks that let you do exactly that. And it has that quality of life assurance, except SEGA really is trying to monopolize you fucking dolts. Especially after reading up on how they're basically making you pay for the deluxe edition twice. I can probably get more enjoyment out of finding the various Streets of Rage 2 ROM hacks that lets you places the 4 characters with literally any other character, and I'm pretty sure there's still some being made to this day. Even so far recently as that Shredder's Revenge game, which is getting DLC. Wow, I'm so stoked for that too.
Not.
You know, it's one thing if you buy a game new and then they come up with a complete edition. SEGA is basically doing that, but in the worst possible case. Like, I remember waiting for Fallout 4 Game of the Year edition, and turns out it was just a slightly rebranded disc with a voucher code for the Season Pass. I literally could have just played Fallout 4 when it was new and buy the Season Pass. And people want to say that the Arkham Knight Season Pass was absolute garbage. Okay, it probably is, but at least Rocksteady didn't make you fucking double dip in that shit. Except when the PS4 version still has skins that are exclusive to that version, which is fucking dumb. Even some people got into an argument with me about how Knuckles being in CD is whatever. Here's a screen cap. I don't even feel like talking about this shit. It's so fucking stupid. All this effort is basically what it should have been in the original collection to begin with. And what's really sad, the most depressing part of all this, is that SEGA actually did this before. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Sonic Mega Collection. They released their game on the GameCube, and this was only on the GameCube. You couldn't get it on anything else. It had a bunch of Sonic games, and they were all in one package. Now, admittedly, yes, it was great that the GameCube fan base got to essentially play the Sonic games from long ago, and even some of them were included as bonuses, even some were unlockable. Although the only thing I really don't agree with is having to boot up Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles 30 plus times just to play the lockup version. I think that's really fucking stupid, but thankfully with Dolphin and all that other fun shit, and even with Action Replay back in the day, I'm sure there was ways to bypass that. But then the game actually got a plus version with releases following on the PS2 and the Xbox, and even the PC of all things, yeah. There was actually another compilation of Sonic games that was on the PC. Except here's the thing, the GameCube release did not see a plus version. It was released on everything else except the GameCube. Now, can you imagine this bullshit happening today? Sure, it's happened before. People will defend this because it's Sonic the Hedgehog and people just can't let go. And yes, I've been saying it a lot, and unfortunately it's true. People just can't let go of an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog who just sometimes might have a bad game every now and then. Even during the Genesis era, there were at least a couple of shitty games. Sonic 3D Blast might be a game you might either really like or really hate. Sonic Spinball was clearly there to keep people occupied in between Sonic 3. And the various Game Gear games, they range from really shitty to just barely being passable. Not to say that they shouldn't be wiped from existence like the Thanos glove, but they just aren't anywhere near as good as the main games. But even with this emulation crap, it's not surprising that Sega can't even emulate their older games correctly, which is hilarious. I don't even think the Game Gear games that were included in the GameCube version of Sonic Adventure had this shitty Game Gear problems, but yet here we are again. It's just disgusting. It's supposed to be made by fans for fans of Sonic, except they can't even get that shit right. And speaking of Sonic 3D Blast, you want to know what would have been a cool feature for this collection to have? Okay, hear me out. There was a video where someone basically swapped out the music when fighting Mecha Sonic with the boss music from Sonic 3D Blast, which, even having all the various music from the Genesis games of other Sonic games and having them as an option to kind of swap them out, kind of like with Tekken Tag Tournament 2 and Tekken 7, at least for playing the PS4, which is really fucking retarded. And they kind of low-key made a DLC in the 360/PS3 versions of Tag 2. I'm sorry, the Ancient Gods Part 2. Even having that would be a pretty cool option. Like, you could listen to Sonic 3D Blast music while playing the game. It'd be like playing Sonic Generations, where you could change the music of the stage and swap it out to anything else. And that would actually be really fucking cool. That would legit be awesome. You could swap out music stages, you know, have it be like Sonic 2, where it just has one song throughout it, or whatever, or if you prefer to Act 2 music, you could do that. You could do so much cool shit with the jukebox feature, but no. People act like Sega has redeemed themselves for the 66th time this month. Like, whenever Capcom announces something that isn't completely fucking terrible. It's like when Capcom announced Devil May Cry 5, and people were like, oh my god, Capcom finally redeemed themselves, even though, wasn't that around the time that Street Fighter 5 was alive and relevant? Yeah, I can't exactly say a Capcom redemption arc, when Street Fighter 5 is possibly the worst fighting game that Capcom ever made, until Street Fighter 6 came out. I really don't know what to say with this, to be honest. It's just absolutely pitiful that people will not only defend Sega in such ludicrous ways, but you have people who have legitimate complaints, but are lumped to the same people that cry, scream, and bitch and moan that Sega is giving Sonic green eyes again. It's like people who look at anyone who dares criticize Sonic with legit arguments is lumped to the actual shitheads that only cry because they changed Sonic's model slightly. It's just retarded. It really is. I don't know. It's maybe because, again, people can't let go. Maybe the Sonic movie, besides having Shadow, will have Amy or something. I really don't care. Honestly, I don't even care if fucking Sonic 3 does well, whatever. I honestly do not give a shit. I've seen both movies back to back, playing Bayonetta in the process, because we all know that shit was published by Sega, so why not? Might as well torture myself with a game that I kind of liked, but then I started to dislike more and more as I played it. And then I just don't fucking care about it anymore, so I don't know what the fuck I'll be playing if I even watch that shit. It doesn't change the fact that both movies sucked. People think that it is the gold standard of video game movies, and yet they can't even get adaptations of Sega's best games correct. They could have just released the games on emulation, not make them sound like shit, and I wouldn't be nearly as pissed. No, they have to hype up this shit as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then they have to go out of the way of delisting all the other versions of the game. Not that any of them were really bad per se, maybe except the Sega Vintage collections. Even they were still playable, it's just they're based on a no save option. And it had the Michael Jackson music if you really give a shit about that. I don't know how people are so fucking up in arms about that shit. There are so many versions and compilations of Sonic 3D you can play that have the music. The only one that didn't have that shit was that PC release, which last I checked people didn't like because the MIDI sounds like shit. People disregard general MIDI because it doesn't sound like CD performance. Like when people argue that Final Fantasy VII's music is bad on PC because it's not CD quality. And it really sucks because I like the older games, I really do. I could play for them and never really be bored, like with Doom. But even these modern compilations try to add in all these extra bells and whistles and they just don't fucking work. Even if they were to just release a version of Sonic 3 that was emulated and not have the Michael Jackson music, it'd be whatever, because it wasn't going to promise this extra mission mode, this DLC that adds in fucking menu options or whatever. I'm tired of this nonsense with Sega and their fans basically white knighting Sega every fucking time. I have a feeling that this Metal Gear Solid collection is somehow going to be more worth the money than Sonic Origins Plus, but I'm not going to give Konami that much benefit of the doubt, considering that people are already sucking them off because they're bringing back Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid Delta. Who are the people getting mad that Ubisoft is remaking a game from the 7th gen, and are also pissed off that people don't like the Demon Souls remaster because it's from the PS3 era? Yeah, sure, Game of the Year, my ass. They're just older games remade for a new audience. What game being remade is not the issue, but people have such bias it's not even fucking funny. And this Sonic collection has so much fucking bias it's not even funny. I never see people act like this is a Streets of Rage remake, because the people who actually put that shit in there did it for free and they didn't fucking rob people, except those who like Streets of Rage 3, but that's a different issue. Why the hell should I waste my money on a Sega game that I know I'm gonna hate, when I can just play literally any other version of the game? My god. I cannot comprehend this anymore. This is ScapeROMFiles. I will see you all next file. Thanks for watching, and take care. Now if you excuse me, I have to go cool off. Later, haters!